is a short Yom Kippur message for my dear friends at Ohr Somayach. Aseret Yemei Tshuva, the 10 days of awe and judgment between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, are a gift. A gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We could go back in the tunnel of time and repair what we damaged, fix what we have broken. I want to share a Hasidic Maisa, a Hasidic tale. The story goes of Aaron Agadol of Karlin, first day Rosh Hashanah, when the Baal Shachris, as our minhag is, cried out from his seat in Shul, Hamelech. The Kalina Rebbe fainted. After davening, his Hasidim asked him, we barely started davening. We did not yet get to Nasana Toikev mi yechye mi yamut. It was only crying out Hamelech. Why were you so touched? Why did you faint? And he said, I suddenly remembered the Gemara in Masechet Gittin Daf Nun Vav. In the days of the Chorban Abayis, the destruction of the temple, Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai finally gets to meet the Roman commander, Vespasian, Aspasianus. And Rabbi Yochanan turns to him and he says, Your Majesty the King. He interrupts Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai and he says, I'm not the king. The emperor sits in Rome. I'm commander of the Roman legion. But if I am a king, where were you till now? So the Kalina Rebbe of Adna Godel Makalin said, when we cry out HaMelech, HaKadosh Baruch Hu might ask, if I am the king, where were you till now? And whenever I tell the story, I ask, so why don't we faint? Obviously, it's a silly question. We don't faint because we're not the Kalina Rebbe. But I think there's another reason. In all our tefillas, in the Yomim Noraim, in these magnificent days, we always turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in dual language. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King. And we say, Im kebonim, im avodim. We put bonim before avodim. First, we're HaKadosh Baruch Hu's children, and only then His servants. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, first and foremost, is our Father, and only then is He the Master, the King. A soldier left his base. He's lost. Military police looking for him. Cannot find him. After a year, he comes back, knocks on the door. First thing, he's thrown into jail, and it'll take 2 weeks before he will appear before a military tribunal. A son left his father's home. The police is looking for him to no avail. He vanished into thin air. After a year, 3 o'clock in the morning, there's a knock on the door. Father and mother rush to the door because they can't sleep anyway for the past year. They open the door, and here he is. The first reaction is overwhelming love. They kiss, they hug, they cry together. And father says, my beloved son, I wasn't even sure that I'll ever see you again. I can't even express how happy I am. Well, at some stage, he definitely will be required to explain, how did you do this to us? Why? Why? You didn't give a call, you didn't come back. But the initial reaction is of overwhelming love. Kodesh Baruch was a father, and he's waiting for his children. Yes, we've left him a year ago, probably by Ne'ilah, last Yom Kippur. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu was waiting for us. And when we ultimately come back, He always is happy to see us. And that is why we don't faint. So let me share with you a mashal, a parable, and to explain where Ohr Somayach comes into the picture. We speak about fathers and children, Kodesh Baruch Hu being a father and we being his beloved flock, his beloved children. A father has 3 kids, 3 children. For some reason, all 3 left home, slammed the door shut, and for years they had no contact, and the father is brokenhearted. One nice day, his oldest gives him a call. Dad, I miss you. I'm on my way home. He doesn't even believe it. Is this a dream? Or is it reality? Son comes home. They cry and embrace. They hug and they kiss. And the son says, I regret. Let's not talk about it. I'm happy to be home. And I hope to be together forever. And the father, as you could imagine, is overwhelmed with happiness, with joy, and with love. Sometime later, number 2 calls, and he says, Dad, I've thought a lot in the past few years. I miss you. And he calls once a week. Didn't come home yet, but he calls and they talk. From time to time they meet and makes his father happy. He hopes and he wishes that at some day he will come all the way back. But yes, they have a relationship. Son number 3 is still somewhere out there, and his father is desperately waiting to hear from him. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has many children. When we come back, HaKadosh Baruch Hu longs and hopes we will bring the others as well. And as long as some of his kids are still somewhere out there, his joy will never be total, all-encompassing. So in these days of tshuva, when we come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu expects us. Where are your brothers? Are you trying to bring them home as well? You know them. They're your brothers. So when we do tshuva and we come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the greatest gift we could do, we could give HaKadosh Baruch Hu is bring our brothers along. Some of them have started the process. Some of them are on the way. And we should embrace and help them along. Some of them are still out there, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is waiting for them as well. So whatever we could do, not only on our own tshuva and our own homecoming, it is our obligation and our privilege to try to bring all the others along. So Ohr Somayach is the very first major kidduv organization. And that is why I feel it a privilege to be associated. Just a moment ago, you probably heard the blast of the shofar because I'm sitting in my office in my shul, and there's a minyan downstairs, so you probably heard from a distance the shofar. So Bnei Ashkenaz blow the shofar every day, and it's Chodesh Elul. And the shofar is an awakening call. And the Rambam teaches us, Uru, Uru Yishenim Mishenatchem. Wake up from your slumber. And when we do wake up from a slumber, and we remember our Father, Avinu Shebashamayim, we also are supposed to remember his children. Not only ourselves, but all the others as well. Kodesh Baruch Hu Yazreinu, Leman Kavod Shemo. We should be zeicha to do tshuva shleima, and we should do our best to care for all our brethren. When we come back, we'll try to bring the others along. This has been a difficult year, a difficult 2 years. The war is still raging. Adayin lo noshanu. Let us hope and daven. Let us hope and pray. This coming year should be a year of peace, internally and externally. Peace and harmony amongst our people, and peace and harmony with no external threat. Let us hope and daven that this coming year will be a Shnas Geula v'Yeshua, b'mheiro v'yameinu, amen.
Ani l'daidi v'daidi li. The acronym for Elul is perhaps one of the most famous acronyms in all of Torah. Ani l'daidi v'daidi li is typically translated, I am for my beloved, and my beloved is for me. It comes from Shir HaShirim, and it's typically understood to be a relationship between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael, given over in an example of a man and woman who have a relationship of love and feeling for each other. So, Ani l'daidi v'daidi li, I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. Sounds great. Slight problem. The word daid appears in the Chumash, it appears in the Torah in a few places, and it does not mean my beloved. Daid is an uncle, as in Daidai uben Daidai Yigalenu in Parshas Bahar, where a man redeems a field, or his relatives, his uncle, or ben Daidai, or his cousin. A Daid is an uncle. In Parshas Emor, by the Arayos, by the relatives, it says Daidaschahi. It's talking about an aunt. So actually, it would seem that the correct translation of Ani l'daidi v'daidi li would be, I am to my uncle, and my uncle is to me, which does not seem to fit well into the theme of the month of Elul. And obviously, something is wrong. There are no true synonyms in Lashon Kodesh. Every word has its own meaning, and therefore, this certainly needs some level of explanation. The Gaon, the Gra, gives us an insight into the meaning of Ani l'daidi v'daidi li, and by doing so, he gives us a little bit of a picture of the goal of the month of Elul. The Gaon is explained by Rav Hutner in the Pachad Yitzchak on Chag HaPesach, where he discusses Shir HaShirim, and he explains with the following yesod. There are two loving relationships in a healthy human being's life. One is the relationship with his wife, or a woman with her husband, which is a relationship of love and caring. Another loving relationship is that of relatives, of typically blood relatives, of parents to a child, of siblings, of uncles, of relatives of all sorts, who have a natural inclination to have love one for the other. There are exceptions. There are exceptions in marriage too. But in the nature of God's creation, there are two inherent type of loves. The love of a spousal relationship and the love of a blood relationship. Zakta Gaon, there's a fundamental difference between the two. The relationship of a husband and wife is tsanuha, it's private. By its definition, it's a relationship whose intensity and meaning is known to two people, to the husband and to the wife. Tznius beseeches people to keep it that way, to keep it private, and the more tznius there is in a relationship, the more real it is. Not so with a relationship based on a blood relationship, a relative. It's very beautiful for relatives to come upon one the other and give each other a hug or a kiss. Of course, we're permitted by halacha, but it's a very beautiful thing. It's a very open thing. It's something that's shown when people get together. Someone meets a bunch of friends, and one of them is his brother. He gives his brother a hug. And that's a very beautiful and meaningful thing. The sense of tznius doesn't contradict that. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has both relationships of love with Klal Yisrael. It actually says in Shir HaShirim, Mi tencha ke'ach li. The Kala, in the relationship of Shir HaShirim, says to God, which is the mashal of the Chassan, Mi tencha ka'ach li. I wish you were like a brother to me. Now, that's not a very loving thing for a wife to say to her husband. But the point, as the Gaon explains it, is that there's an ava behester and an ava begoli. There are two types of loving relationships. Klal Yisrael says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's true that there's a love behester, a hidden love between God and Bnei Yisrael. And for the purposes of the different challenges, Nisyanos of Olam Hazeh, it remains behester, it remains hidden. But Klal Yisrael says, Mi tencha ka'achli, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please show us some open ava as well, some ava begoli as well. The ani l'daidi v'daidi li, which is Elul, is not the same as the Shir HaShirim of Pesach. Shir HaShirim of Pesach refers to the, so to speak, spousal relationship, the loving relationship. Elul is a Yom HaDin. It's a time of din. And there we beg HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ani l'daidi v'daidi li, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, show the open ava that you have. Show the ava in the plan for the coming year in a way in which the love shouldn't be a secret. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is meitzitz min hacharakim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sort of peeks between the cracks to keep his eye on Klal Yisrael and keep us in a healthy place, in a place where Klal Yisrael could survive. But we beg HaKadosh Baruch Hu, show some open love as well. Show it openly. Every once in a while, just blink at us. Show us a secret of your love. A Jew whose antennas are up, a Jew who has a relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, will see that every once in a while in his life, God shows him something. Something happens where the odds of it being a coincidence are impossible. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu just shows him that someone's watching. It might be a relatively meaningless in the picture of life incident in a person's life. But that is HaKadosh Baruch Hu saying, I'm here. Klal Yisrael, when it comes to Yomim Noraim, tries to show some type of open love to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We take on chumras, we take on things which we don't necessarily do all year. We take on a hidur mitzvah. Hey, shouldn't use the word chumrah. No one likes chumras. I once had a woman who called about one of the boys in yeshiva, and she said, is he a growing boy? Now, when I get that question, to me it's very confusing. Is he a growing boy? So sometimes when I'm at a somewhat challenging mood, I say, what do you mean a growing boy? Most people are a little challenged. They say, you know, he's growing in Avodas Hashem. So I say, oh, you mean he wants to take on more chumras as life goes on? Reaction is always, no, he's looking for chumras. I say, oh, you mean just he should do more hidurim, more hidur mitzvah as life goes on? Yeah, that's what I mean. Now, a thinking person knows that chumras and hidurim are one and the same. There's no difference. A person who serves HaKadosh Baruch Hu and undertakes to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a closer way all the time is looking for things he doesn't have to do, but wants to do, to show an ava satira, to show an ava to Hashem. And even if we're not holding there all year, for the Aseres Yemei Tshuva, for the 40 days of Elul and the Aseres Yemei Tshuva, we undertake to do something more, something extra. here in Shul. For 40 days, we have a Vesikin minyan. Not necessarily all year round, but even those of us who don't daven Vesikin all year, it's not so hard. And for these 40 days, we do. We say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we have an Ava, it's too sad that it's often behester. Now we want to show it begoli. Ani l'daidi v'daidi li is a relationship of love that's open. Love, that's the mashal of an uncle, that's right, of an uncle. Of that love, Hashem has the spousal love to Klal Yisrael all the time. Yasis alayich aleikoyach kivseis chasam akala. There always is that level of relationship. But it's hidden, it's b'tznius. We beg HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in the coming year, show it a little more begali. Let us see your hand guiding Klal Yisrael individually, and for Klal Yisrael on the whole, we need Rachamei Shamayim. And that's the message of Ani l'daidi v'daidi li. The Gaon says a bit more. There's a dual mashal in Shir HaShirim. There, of course, is the relationship between Klal Yisrael and the Rabbi Shalom. There's also the relationship between the Jewish people and the Torah HaKadoshah and the Torah. The Torah, too, has two parts, the Gilui of Torah and the Hester of Torah. We learn the Golui of Torah. Ramah says that someone who hasn't completed learning Torah Sanigla, the Ramah says in Hilchas Talmud Torah, it's aser. It's aser of him to start learning Torah Nistar. People who start learning Torah Nistar before they finish Shas, someone comes to me and he tells me, I want to tell you a shtickle zayir, a pshat in a zayir. I say, 1 minute. Torah Sanigla you learned? How many prakim are there in Masechtas Tamura? Now, I don't know if he knows Masechtas Tamura. He doesn't know how many prakim there are in Masechtas Tamura. I tell him, do me a favor. Put the Zayar away and learn Masechtas Tamura first. There's a Gilui of Torah and a Hester of Torah. Incredible Gemara on Daf Lamed Hey and Avodah Zarah, which is so beautiful based on this Gra. The Gemara there says that there's an Isser Gevinas Akum, the cheese of a non-Jew. Now it means Chalav Yisrael milk is used, but the non-Jew makes it into some type of cheese. That's Aser. The Gemara says Rabbi Shmuel begged Rabbi Yeshua to explain the reason for this mitzvah. Now in Teres HaNigla, there's a very clear reason. Very often cheese was curdled using rennet from non-kosher animals. Rabbi Shmuel was clearly referring to a deeper meaning. And he begged Rabbi Yeshua, give me the side, tell me the secret of Gevinas Akum. The Gemara says, Hisiyah ledavar acher. Rabbi Yeshua changed the subject. He didn't want to talk about it. Rabbi Yeshua changed the subject. But what's fascinating is, why did he change the subject to? He changed the subject to a digduk topic. Sure enough, best way to scare people away. He says to Rabbi Shmuel, Hisiyah ledavar acher. Is a pasuk in Shir HaShirim. Ki toivim doidecha miyayin. He asked him, is the word doidecha miyayin or dodayich miyayin? What is the translation of the word? What is it referring to? Is it from the shorish of dai or from the shorish of dad? He asked him on this, he changed it to a different topic. Pashim Shad, he just picked a different topic. The Gaon says beautifully, he was maramis to him, that there's nigla of Torah and there's nister of Torah. Stick to the nigla of Torah. Stick to what's open in Torah. You're not holding by the nister of Torah. The message in all this is that we live lives which include relationships that are too often only behester. And the nigla of Torah really has to exist. The person has to show an ava for Torah. The person has to show an ava not just for limud Torah, but for all parts, all aspects of Torah. Just loving Jews and loving Torah and not performing, not doing anything about it, it's not a real love. A love that's not connected to anything is not a real love. As once in Eretz Yisrael with a young man from the shul who was struggling in areas of Yiddishkeit. Today is Baruch Hashem, an extraordinary father, extraordinary husband, and somebody who's extraordinary master in learning too. But at that time he was struggling. You were at the Kaisel Leil Shabbos. There was a group of people, and I don't mean to label anyone, there's a group of people that were dancing and singing and very lebedik. But they weren't typical. They were, and again, I don't mean to label people, but just to give you the idea, there was a long-haired, polo shirt type of group of chevra. And many of them are excellent, but this particular group was there, and they were dancing. And afterwards, I walked home from the Kaisel with this young boy. I said, I saw you were moved by it. He said, yes. He says, do you think they were sincere? I said, of course they're sincere. I know many of them. They really sang HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'Ava. Then I asked, do you think they'll wake up for Zman Kriyas Shema tomorrow morning? And he laughed. He said, the ones I know probably won't get up for Shachris. So I asked him, so what's wrong? They're sincere in their love for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And God asked them to wake up and say Kriyas Shema. What is it? He said, you tell me. I told him love has to be rooted in something. To express love and jump up and down and mean it sincerely. I don't question sincerity. But it's got to be connected to something open or it has no kiyum. A man who expresses tremendous love for his wife but doesn't show it in any action, in any practice, is doomed to failure. Something that's not rooted in the physical world doesn't grow, doesn't live. So Torah has to be rooted. Connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to be rooted. It has to take on a true, wholesome being and existence. Ani l'daidi v'daidi li. We say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, be open. Show us your love openly, we beg you. And we in turn, ani l'daidi. I too will show an ava that's open. I have the privilege to visit Yeshivat Ohr Somayach every summer since, I believe, 1997, except for the COVID year. Every summer. And I am awed by what Ohr Somayach does. There are many places where about tshuva can feel a connection to Torah. There are many wonderful people who draw someone who's not yet religious to an interest in Yiddishkeit. And it's all meaningful, it's all real. Ohr Somayach is unique. I've met boys who had no connection to Yiddishkeit a couple of months ago. And they're learning Gemara with Rashi and trying Taisvis. It's incredible. Ohr Somayach Shita is to take the Ava Belev and make it an Ava in the Olam HaMaisa. To turn young boys into Loimdei Torah, often Talmidei Chachamim, but even if not Talmidei Chachamim, but people who have a love, a true love for Torah. And it's an incredible, incredible thing. I met boys in Ohr Somayach who years later, very often are going to college, are working, and they have a connection. One particular young man, who I know now for 3 years, he was in Ohr Somayach for a few months. He had to go back to England, to university. I sent him a set of Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the art scroll Kitzur. I told him, just learn at least one halacha every day. The young man who knows how to learn. His connection to Torah remained. A year and a half later, he let me know he was making a siyum on Bava Metzia. Isn't that incredible? Recently, he sent me an email that he's starting Kitzur again. How did that stay with him? How did that stick with him? Because it came from the hester of his heart. We had a connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisroel into the Golui, which is really what Ohr Somayach is all about. And so, Ani l'daidi v'daidi li is very much the call of Yeshivat Ohr Somayach. I hope all of you who have the schus to be inspired by those who call themselves Tamidim and Rebbeim of Ohr Somayach will take a hand in Ohr Somayach, be part of it by going there as I do and learning there in the summer, and really having a connection to support this most incredible Makom Torah right in the center of the universe, Yerushalayim Eir HaKodesh. A good Kibbutz Shah to one and all.
Hi, this is Peretz Baruch Eichler, a proud alumnus of Ohr Somayach. Now, what you just watched is one of the many programs that Ohr Somayach provides, leaving its impact on hundreds of thousands with so many more waiting to be reached. Ohr Somayach's central campus in Jerusalem has over 300 students presently learning there. And now you can be a vital part of spreading that bounty of knowledge worldwide by logging on to donate.ohr.edu. We can step up to the plate at this pivotal moment of Ohr Somayach's growth and bring the next generation of Jews home.